So tell your mother that you love her, and tell your boyfriend you wish him well. 'Cause the birds and the bees, they've all come to agree that no one's gonna save them now. And tell your best friend not to visit, there's no more use in going out. 'Cause the birds and the bees, they've all come to agree that no one's gonna save them. No one's gonna save them. No one's gonna save them now.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sunshine Spotlight. I'm James, and I am so honored and happy to have someone I've been a fan of for many years, Elizabeth from Elizabeth and the Catapult. Welcome.
Hi, James. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be talking to you right now.
It's so true. We've been emailing back and forth. You know, I've been really effusive and digging on your record. So I want to get right into that. The cool thing about Sincerely E, which I'm calling the musical memoir of the year, is it came out in December of 2020. Am I right about that? I think I'm right.
The album?
Yes. Late December? Is that right?
The album, my first single came out, and the album was out actually just a couple weeks ago, the full album.
No kidding. All right, so it must have been the first single. You started releasing singles before.
Yeah, I had a couple months of like just a song per month, and then the full album finally came out on March 5th.
Let me just say, I feel like I've been listening to it longer. It is so brilliant. I know I've said this to you before, so I want to start with that. When did you write these songs, and how much of what's all been happening to us informed those songs?
Well, first of all, I think of this album, I love that you called it a memoir of this past year, because it really feels like a time capsule of this very strange time. And I didn't go into writing this album during the shutdown trying to write a concept piece or something just about what we were experiencing. It just kind of happened that way because I was experiencing the isolation, and I was actually, for the first 6 months of the shutdown, I couldn't write at all. I had just kind of complete writer's block and was in a complete state of shock, I think, along with the rest of the world. And it wasn't until over the summer that when the numbers went down, they dipped for like a couple of months, I think. And it really felt like there was like this, we were turning a new leaf, and things were feeling a lot more hopeful, that I had enough space and kind of perspective and kind of a breath with this glimmer of hope to start writing. And I started writing feverishly. I remember it was over the summer, August 8th, I think. I had been thinking about, I had been writing lyrics for like a week or two, and I finally just started recording. And the first 4 songs that I recorded were the first song on the record, Birds and the Bees, Together Alone, and the last 2 tracks on the record, Hope My Sometimes Friend and Love Always Wins. And they're all songs that are just really directly about almost diary entries of what I was experiencing in the isolation and what my friends were experiencing and what I was reading about. And it feels like mostly just takes on different accounts of and the different forms that loneliness takes. Whether you're alone, because like I was when all my roommates moved out in isolation, or whether you're alone in a relationship, it feels like you can be alone when you're surrounded by people. When you feel alone, even with your family, or feeling alone just because, and isolated and strange because you're only communicating through your phone or online. And so there were just all these different accounts of what people were feeling in this new normal.
Yeah, I mean, some of the songs, Together Alone, Birds and the Bees, they speak of the period, but and I'm remarking because I'm going to work on a longer form piece, and you and I are going to do a longer interview after this. But my assessment is the problems. I don't want to say the problems, but the concerns, the thoughts that go into this record seem to be something that was here in 2019. It didn't need 2020. That brought it out to a greater scope. But the idea we lost our connection to humanity using our phones. My brain is connected to my phone, which is that line, and just the idea of human connection. There's quite a few songs in here about sexuality, quite a few songs about love, a great song about a mom, a new mom. So there's that physical aspect bashing up against the technology that we've all kind of traded in long before 2020.
Yeah, so I think that it just, exactly as you're saying, it really put all of these things into focus. Absolutely, I was thinking about my brain is connected to my hand, is connected to my phone for years, and I was bouncing around these ideas, but my best friend had a child. I was pregnant during the shutdown and during this pandemic, and the experience of that mystery of really, it's just heightened of what kind of world I'm bringing my child into. Is really, it was almost an exaggerated environment for all of these feelings that we were already having, of like, how is our language changing because of this isolation? How is our, now that I have more ads than ever bombarding my brain, like with the song Pop the Placebo, how am I changing as a human? How are my desires changing? My identity changing from just being bombarded with ads for Noom and for, the new Mirror or whatever exercise apps we're supposed to do.
Right.
And this compulsion with being healthy. How is that changing who I am? And so it really was like this science experiment of this last year, this petri dish of what we were all going through, was definitely like a bigger, or not even bigger, but even more focused platform to
I'm often wondering, like, the great thing about the record is it doesn't have just, I don't want to make it sound like this is sort of a solemn commentary on the times. There are very uplifting. I love Hope, My Sometimes Friend, because it's true. Hope can somehow be damaging to us, and also a positive. If we put too much hope in things, then we end up being disappointed. And sometimes we could be disappointed by family, by loves, by friends, by society in general. But then again, if you don't have that hope, it's hard to get through those times, especially in an isolated sense. But a lot of these songs don't speak to that. For me, they speak to the real, you get to the, I said you're dealing with familial love, sexual love, societal caring, and it's very evident in the song. In other words, you did a great job it's a full package, this record. You did a great job in putting each song after another. So you're taken on this little journey about how our emotions go through when we're forced to look at them, which is what you're doing on this record, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're talking about where hope falls in terms of everything, in terms of such a difficult years, because really, I do think it's a solemn record, although I dress up my solemn lyrics in kind of, uplifting, catchy music. Sometimes it's something that I like. I like that juxtaposition.
Right. Thirsty is a great example. Thirsty is a great example of that.
Yeah. Something, or it's just like, I was going through a breakup in the beginning of this shutdown.
Right.
And so all of those feelings that we all feel as humans were exaggerated, because I was like, I am probably more alone than I'll ever be. So it was like, it was torture, but it was also this tongue-in-cheek kind of fun, sarcastic song of just being like, this is empowering how much I hate you right now. I'm empowered by these feelings. Screw you. And there's a release in that. And there's a catharsis in all of it, but I'm just sorry. I think I'm bouncing around a lot. What I was trying to say was that I think that there's this place between hope and pain. There's like this little rub that I think a song like Sweet Chariot, which you were talking about, that from a mother to her newborn babe, that kind of song has, where it's almost like, do you ever hear songs that make you a little teary almost in their hopefulness? That to me is like, if I'm crying because of like the humanity and the hopefulness in a song while I'm writing it, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm onto something now. There's something there, because you can feel the whole spectrum. And so yes, like that song Sha-La-La, which is about a can collector who's walking the streets of New York City with her dog and saying, I don't make a killing, but it's still a living. Like, that's a life-affirming tune. And it sounds really happy. That's why I called it Sha-La-La, because it really just feels like this release. And yet we're dealing with a kind of serious narrative. And that to me is what makes it more interesting. But I made, like, I intentionally was like, I want to feel hope on this record, and it's tricky.
Well, where there's life, there is hope. And this is my way of segueing into, not only did Elizabeth record a song just for us from this new record, Sincerely E, but she did 3 of them. So I'm going to play a little bit of each one at the top and the bottom, as everyone knows who watches the show. I do a little snippet at the beginning and the end of the show. But I chose, because it's my show, Sweet Chariot. Now, Sweet Chariot is, such as you mentioned, such an uplifting, beautiful song. And you sing it, I just picture you kind of tearing up. So you literally teared up when you wrote this song?
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
I do that with any song that I feel like has like definite merit that I write. I'm kind of tearing up while I'm writing it. I'm such a sap.
Well,
I'm really a lush.
Let's sap and lush along with you. This is the wonderful Elizabeth. I asked you this once before. It's Ziman, right? Not Ziman?
Ziman.
Oh, it is Ziman. See, I flip-flopped it. You're supposed to go with the long I if you only have one consonant.
I know, which is why my last name is not in my band name, because you're not the only one. I've never even met someone who's gotten it right.
Yeah.
On first,
I can't get the damn record when it came out right. Maybe we should start this over. No, we're not going to do that, because your answers were fantastic. Elizabeth Ziman with Sweet Chariot off our brand new record.
Yes.
Sincerely E. Check it out.
Being human is a rare condition. Get in line now. Here's the test. To get it right is a strange proposition. And the answer's always just around the bend. And to feel fine is a contradiction. To act as tough as you're fragile within. Little lady, I know someday you'll rest easy in your own skin. Does your soul have a cold? Rest easy, let it be known that the high and the low, they don't last forever. Sweet chariot, from the moment that you open your eyes, I knew I love it till the day that I die. We swing high, we swing low, but I'll always be there. Sweet chariot. I wouldn't wish it on the faint of heart. Oh, one false move and you'll start believing you're not not so deserving of the ones that you most love. It might sound strange, but long after you suffer, I bet you'll miss the pain when it's gone, oh, gone. 'Cause every heartbreak brings you one step closer to the kind of person you're truly deserving of. That's and so have a core. Rest easy, let it be known that the high and the low, they don't last forever. Sweet chariot, from the moment that you open your eyes, I know I love you till the day that I die. We swing high, we swing low, but I'll always be there. Sweet chariot. Sweet chariot, chariot, you'll always be there.
That is Sweet Chariot off of Sincerely E, the wonderful Elizabeth Ziman from Elizabeth and the Catapult. I don't know, I'm going to say it again. These songs are just amazing. We haven't talked at all about your singing. Just sublime. You bring apart, I always think of Steven Spielberg, who said, you should be able to watch a movie without sound or music and get the point. I think if there were no lyrics to this record, the way you sing these songs brings along the emotion. I mean, if there was no lyrics about a mom and her baby, I think your emotion comes through just on your vocals. Wonderful job with the vocals on this record.
Thank you.
Just
That's a very, very unique, interesting take on it. I've never, it's funny, but I think that the one thing that I finally maybe learned after all of these years of recording, because I was self-producing and because I was doing it at home, and I couldn't really, I think it was a minimalist record compared to what I usually do, is that I was like, if the song is there, if the song is like good enough quality and the arrangements are just simple enough, straight ahead enough, that you sing as honestly as you can. So no, like do these live takes, especially with just the piano vocal songs, a song like Sweet Chariot just with the guitar. If your intention is there, that will be enough. And I think it took me a long time to get that. So I didn't even think of myself as a singer for many years. I thought of myself first as a writer, and then I would, I could sing, but it was like, I didn't think of it. I didn't put that hat on. It's just interesting because I do film scores. So I thought of myself as a composer first, and I sang, and I was pretty good sometimes and not as good other times. And it was more like this, I had this perfectionist head about it. Mm-hmm. And I think for the first time, I really let go as a singer about being perfect. And it was more about getting to as like vulnerable and intimate and honest of a place when I was singing the songs. And, when I'm singing the birds and the bees on this record, on the first verses, when I'm singing about the guy who's smoking outside of my house and telling me that it doesn't matter that he smokes because the world's ending anyway, right. My voice is hoarse through that whole verse. And I was listening and I was thinking, should I maybe do this whole take again? Should I do this? And then I was like, you know what? No, it's honest and it's of the moment. And this is about being of the moment. So I love that you're saying, actually, even without the lyrics, it feels real. It feels, I don't know, poignant. So that's cool. That's really cool.
Absolutely. And you just mentioned, I got two more questions for you. I want to ask you about the band, but now that you mention it, you really consider yourself more of a composer, a piano player, and someone who works in that milieu because, am I right? First of all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So weren't you recently, when you and I spoke, in fact, you're probably the last woman I had a very close, intimate discussion with without at a live event that I'm not either married to or related to, because you were one of the last, no, you were the last concert I saw at Rockwood. You and Matt played at Rockwood Music Hall in February of
Wow.
2020, very early before the pandemic. And I remember you mentioning to me that night that you were working or were going to work with Sarah Bareilles on some project, right? And you were going to do mostly musical stuff. And so that's where you really feel the most comfortable. How did that translate into this record? How did you do that? The two things, like you had to be a vocalist and a storyteller here, but you really, musically, I must say, your piano playing and the way the record is arranged and some of the sounds on it, it is very soundtrack-esque. That's
great. Well, that's just going to be because that's where I come from, is I'm always kind of thinking cinematically. I've scored with Paul Burrell, this composer, I think about 25 films, documentary films over the last, I guess, 6 or 7 years. And I say that I come from a classical background. I stopped playing when I was 11, but I was like competing in classical competitions as a child. So I had a very intense upbringing with that. And then I stopped playing until I went to Berklee for film scoring, Berklee College of Music. So I think that, absolutely. That's where I'm most comfortable, is in the composing world, and even in the lyric writing world. Like when I write with other people, I'm usually the lyricist and they're writing the music. And I just love that. Oh. I love that. I love that experience. And as a singer, I was never like a commercial singer or like singing for people's, going out on auditions or being a backup vocalist. So it was just my music. So I think that it's cool that that you're calling me a vocalist. I don't know. I've come to it later in life, right, as really owning that, as like that's really one of the main things that people know me for. Cool.
Yeah, I have to. You've hit it on this record. You've come into your own on this record. It's one of the things also I've made note of. So last thing I'll ask you is about you have Elizabeth and the Catapult. A lot of this stuff obviously is your compositions, your vocals. You do a lot of background vocals on this. But when I saw you play, you had a band, you had musicians play with you. What is right now the construct of the Catapult?
Well, I've played with Adam Minkoff on bass, or on drums, or on any instrument over a number of years, and he plays upright bass and sings bass, doo-wop vocals on Shalala.
Yes, he's great. Yes,
he's awesome. He's the best. He does everything. I play John O'Linden, my guitar player for many years, and I was playing most of the guitars on this record. So I really, except for like one tune, was just playing everything. Because
so it really is sincerely E.
It's really like the most intimate version. I mean, I wasn't like going in and using fake library sounds. I was just playing a mellotron out of an amp, was playing a whirly out of an amp, playing a piano out of an amp, playing some guitar. And that's how it happened. So we'll see what, when the world opens up, I want to play with all my friends again. Yes. This was just a particular way to make a record that was absolutely the product of the times.
It really is. It's a wonderful, it's sad, it's hopeful, it's sexy, it's combative, it's angry, it's sweet. It's got all those things in it. You did a wonderful job. I think half of the reason why I even wanted to do this is so I could tell you to your face how I can't stop listening to this record. It's my favorite one so far this year. Just wonderful. Wow. Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah, seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Can't wait to see you live again. Can't wait to see anyone live again. Quite frankly, I say that all the time. Really. This has been the roughest year plus.
I can't wait to play live. It's going to be the best.
It will be. It'll be like this.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes, please.
Yes, yes. Sorry, I just wanted to make
No.
sure that I give a little plug for Matt Susich today because his record came out today.
It did.
And
We're not going to see this for a while, but it did. His record is help me
is it see you or
no, don't be so hard on yourself.
Don't be so hard on yourself. It's so great.
It is.
I'm blown away by this record because you're talking about a record like that's about this year that really means something to you, and thank you so much. This is that record for me.
Yeah, it's tough competition. I mean, a lot of no, seriously. Counting Crows got a new record coming out this year. Wild Pink has a new record I absolutely adore. Our good friend Sean Barner's got a music coming. There's so much good music out there, but you hit it out of the ballpark. So once again,
thank you,
Elizabeth Ziman from Elizabeth and the Catapult. Thank you so much. This is Sunshine Spotlight. My name is James Campion. Peace.
bye.
The sound of your heartbeat. The sound of your heartbeat. Too tired to speak, too bored to go home, too apathetic to listen, too brash to be bold. I think I'm just phoning it in, and I don't even know it. Let's all yawn in unison together.